already, but there were a lot of Brazilian Bachrim, and he would make jokes about the ones that weren't so from. He would say that they're like Barzilai. There's a pasuk in Ezra that says that there's these people Bnei Barzilai Hagiladi, and the Gemara makes a reference that says that it's a whole thing in Yavamas. I think that if you have a person that you're not sure if he's up to a dak and you need to do a test, then you show him the color clothes of a woman, and the Gemara says, is he like Bnei Barzilai Hagiladi? So essentially, when you want to say the Brazilian Bachrim were being like too chilled, he would say you guys are being more like Barziloim than Brazilians and whatever. So I guess that's something. But he had a ton of references that he would make. So my point is that the Rebbe Rashab takes this paragraph, which could be pretty bland, and Etzim it's so seeded with so much. But hopefully we'll try to go through at least a little bit of the Inyanim in what time we have. I'm sorry I came a little bit late.
Compress everything now.
You'll have to try to compress. Do a tzimtzum.
It's a talent as well. So
if I have the talent. So we have, just to give a recap of what we had the Kitzur from the Friedrich Rebbe. So last time we said that in Tainogim, in pleasures, you have an order of different pleasures that are high, that are loftier than other pleasures. The desire or the pleasure in well-balanced foods and things like that, and other corporeal pleasures are the lowest level of tainog. It's the lowest level of pleasure, and it's an animalistic pleasure. A tainog called ariv. You also have a tainog, a pleasure in well-balanced voice or music or whatever it is. Tainog b'midas shal haseichol lehitiv la'arei l'fa'amim gam levilti roi l'shal m'pnei te'alasava. And you also have a pleasure that is in midas, that exists for doing kindness and other things towards those who deserve it, and sometimes kindness for people that don't deserve it because of some kind of plan. So those are three kinds of tainog. But now there's a fourth kind of tainog. And the fourth kind of tainog is really on top of everything. So, Parag Gimel. The pleasure which is above all of the pleasures that we mentioned is the pleasure in intellect and in wisdom. Such as in having a novel idea, and having a novel idea gives immense satisfaction. There's immense pleasure. There's a whole mimer in Siddur Mdach about why and whatever it is. That's not the point for right now. And also, there's another kind of pleasure when a person understands a concept and he learns it well. For this, the soul has pleasure. This is true good pleasure, and it's truly lofty. It's all tonight that the chachma itself needs to be true. The wisdom needs to be true. If the chachma is bad, as in if it's chachma of something that you're not allowed to have chachma with, such as studying other religions for the sake of just casual knowledge, is not something that's allowed to be done. So that kind of studying, even though it is chachma, but it's forbidden. And so that kind of chachma is not a very lofty tainug, it's not a very lofty pleasure. It might affect the same faculties, but adrabah, in a sense, you're taking your most lofty parts, you're taking your soul and your intellect, and you're dirtying it with forbidden chachma. But the Rebbe Shab is saying he's referring to mutter chachma.
If we used another example outside of religion, what would you say would be another example of chachma that's forbidden?
Another example of chachma that's forbidden would be Geisha philosophy. Again, there's a context for Moses. There is, in a sense, one kind of chachma. Religion is very unique in the sense that it says that Hashem never connects thought to a sin, besides from the case of Avodah Zarah. So religion is, in a sense, unique in the sense that you can actually be over just by thinking about it. You have other kinds of chachma that could be negative. You could also have just studying, sciences for the sake of, I'm interested in sciences. And not that I want to make a living, or thing that when I was younger, I wanted to study mathematics. A little bit of Moshe backstory. But I wanted to study mathematics, and I was very set, and I had at that, whatever, I was getting connections in places like MIT and whatnot. And ultimately I didn't. And one of the reasons why is because I realized that there's not really a living to be made off of it. And my excuse that I had for why I was going to go do it is because it was going to be I would be able to make a living off of it. But you can't really make a living off of mathematics. Some people maybe can, I don't know. But if you're studying like Pasha theoretical mathematics, it's not really a way to make a living off of it. You could ek by, you can maybe scrape by. Sending your kids to cheder would be virtually impossible. Buying, I don't know, kosher meat would be virtually impossible. But it's important. Some people go to college because this is what you do. Some people go to college because, I don't know, they want to study 14th century Norwegian poetry or whatever it is that they want to study in college. But to study things like this for the sake of just pleasure is also falls under the category of you need to be kaddish atzmach b'mutralach. You need to sanctify yourself with what's permitted to you. And if it's a pleasure that's just mutter, you need to be able to use it for serving Hashem.
What's mutter?
Mutter means permitted. So va'adam b'asher hu b'cher nevrayim tzarich liyeh sateva v'atainuk shaloi ben yanam aruchim davka. So the man, seeing that he is the choicest of creations, needs to have his pleasure be placed in the highest rung. It needs to be on the highest level. It needs to be in spirituality. Particularly in matters of chachma. And in this particularly showed the light of his soul be. He because this is the advantage of man that man has over everything else which was created, and his advantage is that he has a soul which is able to think. And also particularly mitzad the nefesh alikis that he has, because there's actually, everyone says the nefesh Bahamas, the nefesh alikis is actually a third soul, which is the nefesh hasichlis, the intellectual soul. And there's some Maimorim which explain where the intellectual soul sits and whatnot. There's another nefesh maybe, which is called the nefesh hativis. I had an argument with my third grade Chassidus teacher about if it's actually a distinct nefesh or if it's really just a faculty of the nefesh Bahamas. It's bringing me back good memories. But there's definitely at least three. And so you have the nefesh hasichlis. The nefesh hasichlis is something that we have as humans. Humans have an intellectual soul. Animals have an animalistic soul, which has intellect. We have that too. It says Chavav Adam Shenivra B'Tzelem in the Mishnah, and it says, which means that a man is fortunate that he was created in the form of God. And it says that there's an even greater Chibur Yisrael and Daslai, that there's an even greater belovedness that he has, and the belovedness is expressed in the fact that Hashem let him know that he's created in the image of God. What does it mean that he has that he's even more beloved because he knows about it? Because we have an animalistic soul. Our animalistic soul is virtually the same as any animalistic soul. It has midas, it has seichel. The midas do the heavy lifting. The midas call most of the shots. Midas are emotions. So the emotions call most of the shots as opposed to the intellect.
That's more from the heart.
Yeah, well, more from the heart, I'm saying, but it's just one. We're talking about the soul. The soul has intellect that has emotions, and the emotions do most of the lifting in an animal. By us, we have the same animalistic soul, but we have an intellectual soul, and the intellectual soul has a connection to the animalistic soul, and it has a communication line with the animalistic soul. And just by virtue of the intellectual soul existing in the body existing in the same system as the animalistic soul, the intellectual soul lifts up the whole animalistic soul, and it makes use more of the intellect, because the intellectual soul, its main communication is with intellect. Now, it isn't a spiritual, it's not a holy soul, it's not a soul that strives for godliness, it's a soul that strives for intellect. But the animalistic soul also has intellect, and the animalistic soul gets more used to communicating with intellect because it has to deal with the intellectual soul. So the intellectual soul is able to lift up the animalistic soul side. Our animalistic soul, at the end of the day, ends up being much loftier than that of an animal. Even though we could appreciate that in its core, our animalistic soul is the same as an animal's animalistic soul. However, we spend much less time chasing after our desires and things like that more than an animal does. And the reason for this is because, not that our animalistic soul is different, but that the intellectual soul is able to lift up the animalistic soul. So this is all in the intellectual soul. and this isn't even the point that I wanted to get sidetracked about today, but you also have, particularly because of the godly soul that we have, Shihim Bechinas Chachma Al Kedo, which this is from the level of upper wisdom, which is as is known. V'tzarich liyas kol amshachas nafshe v'chol chefsei magamasei be'esek chachmas atera v'zet tsanig nafshe v'aladei zet tsala nafshe be'ilay amayla v'amaderga shalakach v'nevra. And a person needs to have pleasure in Torah, and his entire desire needs to be to learning Torah, and in this his soul will take pleasure, and through this his soul will be raised through the levels. It will be elevated to the purpose for which he was created. Everything which was created in the world, it was created for a certain purpose. The tachlis called davar hu and the tachlis of everything is when it gets raised to the level that's on top of it.
Tachlis, what is?
Tachlis means the purpose. The purpose of everything is when it gets raised to the level that's on top of it. That the ultimate purpose of vegetation is that it should get utilized by the living. So, for example, grass grows. Why does Hashem make grass grow? What's the purpose of the grass growing?
For cows, maybe.
For cows. Cows eat the grass. And living things eat the grass. And then the energy gets transferred from the plants to the living things. Now, sometimes we make use of the tzemeach not necessarily as food, like we make a mishkan with atzei shitim imdim. We're not. This isn't like a spoiler alert or anything like that. We're not dafka going there, at least not now. But we make the mishkan with atzei shitim imdim, with standing cedar pillars, and cedar is a tree. Tree is a tzemeach. Trees grow, as is known. And we utilize just the aspect of tzemach, but ultimately it's serving a higher purpose. The point of everything that's created is that it should go up a level. So one way that plants can go up a level is by being eaten by animals. They get merged into something which is higher than it, which is the animal. We eat animals. We also eat plants. We elevate these things. We need to make sure that we're elevating it, and that's what we're getting to. So kumay tachlis zemech shenichel b'chai, but tachlis achayu k'shenichel b'medaber. And the ultimate of animals is that they should be included in talking animals, which is us. But tachlis hamedaber hu kasher ruchay elu l'mayla v'nichel v'madregas haruchnis shel l'mayla mimenu. And the ultimate of a talking person is that his spirit should go up and it should be included in spiritual levels which are above him. Such as by studying Torah, which is Hashem's wisdom and His desire. And Hashem is Torah. When a person toils in Torah and he does intense research to understand things properly as they are, a person becomes connected to Hashem with an extremely lofty connection. As it explains in Tanya in Parakeh. So we're able to take everything and we're able to raise it up to Hashem. Now, to be clear, this is not something that's really I don't know how far off I want to go for this, but this is not something that's really necessarily thought about very often, but our bodies are not what's referred to as medaber. Our bodies don't have that much of an advantage over anything else. And our bodies are made really out of daimim, the lowest level. What makes us a medaber, what makes us a person, which is above everything else in creation, is the soul. The soul, which was put down into the worlds of Biyah, enclosed in the worlds of Biyah. The soul is the lofty part about us. The body is lower than the animals. We're going to get into that. This is in a sense an introduction. But the soul is what's lofty and the body is not. When the soul is able to learn Torah, it's taking everything below it, including the daimim that our bodies are, and it's able to connect it with Hashem. So we are, in a sense, our bodies are the tachtenim. We're going to explain, the Kuntreis Umayan is very much about how the body is the tachtenim. The lowest thing, there's nothing lower than it. Mosquitoes were created before the body, which shows that the mosquitoes are on a higher level than the body. The human body is the lowest of the low things that could possibly exist. The soul is the loftiest thing that's been created. And by virtue of learning Torah, we could take this lowly body, which consumed the Tzemeach and the Chai, all for the sake of the Medaber, but it's all now, in a sense, it's in the level of Daimim. It's like a decomposed that got into our bodies. And we're able to elevate it. We're able to take everything that we eat, everything that we use for pleasure, whatever. We're able to use it to elevate it by learning Torah for the right reasons. And with this, the soul gets raised up, and it gets included in the Chachma of Hashem. Both in learning Nigla of Torah, which is the wisdom and desire of Hashem. Which when you have like a paskin halacha, you're saying that Hashem's wisdom says that this is this way, and Hashem's desire is that this should be this way. And everything that a smart Talmud is going to say a chiddush in Torah, everything was really told to Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai. Every single explanation that you have in Torah, every little day, every time that Rashi maybe said this, or the Shach or Taz maybe said that, every single time that you have something in Torah, it's really Hashem's Chachma.
That's also in the that's in the Talmud as well, right?
Yeah, and in the Talmud as well. There's a Hayom Yom, if I'm not mistaken, it says that until the Shach and Taz, everything was written with Ruach HaKodesh. After that, maybe some books were, some were, but until the Shach and Taz, which are two commentators on Shulchan Aruch, everything was written with Ruach HaKodesh. There was once that we were having a share in Smicha in Morristown, and I forgot the exact thing, but the teacher started going off explaining the Shach or whatever it was, Al Pi Chassidus. It was very interesting. It was pasha, you were able to read the Shach like a mimer. It was very interesting. So, yeah, so it should be there. When a person learns Torah, he gets included in Hashem's wisdom, because he's now a vessel for expressing Hashem's wisdom. And his mind is enwrapping itself in Hashem's wisdom. And also, when learning Pnimis of Torah, and learning Chassidus, which is understanding godliness, that which our rabbis have revealed to us is Hashem's Chachma. And when a person connects to Hashem through learning Chassidus, he's essentially connected in a higher way, in a sense, than he can be with only a Chitonius of Torah. There's also an advantage in the Pnimis of Torah in how it affects the soul. That even though when you're learning Torah, you only have a knowledge of Hashem's existence, you don't have a knowledge of Hashem's being, but you're able to connect your soul to Him. Through connecting to Hashem, through learning Chassidus, that even though your taka, it's not Yedias Mahos, it's not knowledge of the essence, it's only knowledge of Hashem's existence. But when you learn Chassidus, your soul gets connected to it, and you're able to have at that point a feeling in godliness. And through this, a person can leave his gashmistic matziv, he can leave physicality, and he can cleave to more refined spirituality. Both in his soul, and also in everything that he does. A person that learns Chassidus, who's aware of Hashem's presence in the world, who's aware of Hashem in a more conscious way, he's able to be spiritually involved in all of the things that he does, even the little things. So, he's able to be connected in a spiritually refined way, in a way that he doesn't feel himself. As it's l'chazach of aser tot tehin belim the Torah vehin be'esek hamitzvus anfen is this edel, and when whatever he does in learning Torah or in doing mitzvahs, everything becomes edel, everything becomes refined. Nit graba be'etzem and nit murgash, not coarse and not something that's overly felt. On blites on achzakas tevel asma, he's able to serve Hashem without saying that he's doing Hashem a big favor by serving Him. Some people think that they do their avodah and they think that they're doing the Eibusher a favor. They think that there's like a give and take with the Eibusher or something like that. They do the Eibusher a favor, and then the Eibusher will do a favor for them. The person is able to serve Hashem without making such cheshbonis. Mekolshkein as only nicker zayin far dem anderen and obviously that he'll be able to do something good for someone else without needing to feel like he's doing them a favor. He's able to do someone else a favor, or he's able to do something good for someone else, not thinking that it's necessarily a favor, just thinking this is how it is that we're Yidden help out other Yidden. When Yana Magashmi moving Mikol Shekain שנפשט מגשמי יוסי שאין מסעבה and Yana Magashmi klala ואין חפץ בהם כי אם כל חפצי ורצני הוא בא לקוסם. When a person learns enough siddhis, they start getting removed from Gashmis in the sense that the Gashmis Sikataivis aren't something that isn't something that takes place by them. They might have a desire because they're humans and human beings have desire, but they become so disinterested in the desire that the desires that they strive for become increasingly more and more spiritual things until ultimately their desires are just to connect to Hashem. So the Kitzur, Ha'adam Shehu Bal Nefesh Maskalas V'Kis Tzarchas Anig V'Chachmas Satera, a person who has an intellectual soul and a godly soul needs to have pleasure in the Chachma of Torah. Tachas Kol Nivra Lalis L'mayla Mimenu. The tachas of every created thing is to go to the level that's higher than it. V'alidei Limu L'Gali Shabbat, and through learning revealed aspects of Torah, you're able to connect to Hashem's wisdom and desire. And through learning Chassidus, so through learning Chassidus, he becomes connected to the primis of Torah, and all of these things that he does becomes edel. It's an advantage that you have in Chassidus over learning other parts of Torah, that even though learning other parts of Torah, you're connected to a direct expression of godly will and godly intellect. But by learning Chassidus, not only are you connected in that way, in a more concealed way, but what happens in a revealed way is that you just become more refined. Learning Chassidus gives you an appreciation of the world how it is, and you start to do things more with Shema, you start to do things more with Bittul. And yeah. So, Chaim, have a good Shabbos.
What's the last word that you said?
Chaim.
Not the before that, like
Bittul. Nullification. That you don't need to be so egotistical in everything that you do.
Yeah.